These are the 12-inch LVL beams. We're gonna put 3 of these together, spanning the entire length of that living room. But we still need some ceiling joists or floor joists, or I guess it depends on where you're standing in the house exactly. But we need something to put in the ceiling as well, some 2x8. So let's run out to my lumber yard and see what we can find out there. It's kind of a windy day, and I just absolutely hate cutting trees down in the wind, because you lose a lot of control over the trees when it's windy like this. So I'm going to try my best. The wind's kind of blowing in a direction that I can work with, so I'm going to try to work with the wind and get it to go down the direction the wind's blowing. I noticed the other day that this pine tree right here was dead, and it's a decent sized pine tree. It's not massive, but it's a decent sized tree. We'll get a better idea later, but you're looking at maybe 13 inches wide right here at about chest level, a little bit lower. So I don't know how long it's been dead. I'm not going to get the drone up today, but I'll try to zoom in just a little bit on that. But you can kind of see it's still got a lot of limbs on it. It's got a lot of pine cones on it, and some needles too. So it hasn't been dead all that long, but it still makes me nervous as far as limbs go, because pine limbs, they'll break off when they're still alive. So let's whack it with the axe and see what it sounds like. This is still a very, very solid tree, but I'm going to make sure I keep an eye on that canopy while we're doing this. The wind is kind of blowing this direction, which works out pretty good. I'm going to try to drop it right in this area. That the wind's blowing that way, but I'm going to get hung up in another tree if I try to drop it that way. So I'm going to try to drop it this way, see what happens. Not that big of a tree, and it went exactly where I wanted it to go, but that was nerve-wracking because of the wind and the fact that this tree was dead. But everybody's still alive, so that's good. That worked out really good. Before we leave, we're going to knock that stump down too. But I got 2 sections, 2 lengths that are 16 feet and 2 that are 10 feet down there. This section right here, the base of this second section is 12 inches in diameter. So let's get that stump knocked out, and then we'll get these to the mill and I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. Here's what I want to do with this log. This log is 12.5 inches in diameter on the small end down there, and I don't know what it is on the large end. It really doesn't matter. It's 16 feet long, just a little less actually when you take the wedge into consideration down there, but it should still fit where I want it. And I'm not making true 2x8s out of this. What I need is boards that are going to be able to fit in standard store-bought joist hangers, so that I can take these joist hangers, put them onto the LVL beams, and then put my board right here onto these joist hangers and have a good strong connection right there. So what I want to make are boards that are about 7 3/4 by 1.5 inches, and I know store-bought dimensions are 7.5. I want to do 7 3/4 because these are going to shrink just a little bit, so I want to make sure that they have a little bit of room to shrink there. So let's get started and see how many we can get. This board log I said was 12.5. I'm guesstimating maybe 7 boards out of this log, so let's get to it and see what we get. One day I'm going to learn to stop estimating how many boards I can get out of a log on camera. It doesn't work out so good. Let's see what we've got here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 full dimension ones right there, or 1.5 inches by 7.5, and then this one down here, which I think is about 1.25 inches, so I will not be using that for a joist. This top one here has got some wane on it, and I'm not going to want to use this piece for the full length. There's one side of that living room that is going to take, I think it's a 14-foot span. The other side is, I'm not sure, I think 9, a little under 9, something like that. So So I'm not going to want to use this one with the wane on it, so we'll probably cut this one down and use it on the other side. So that leaves me with 4 full length 16 footers that are usable. Let's look at them. Here's what we're left with here. Here are 4 really nice boards that I'll end up being able to use the full length of. I think I need 14 feet out of these 16 feet here for these joists. I blew it somewhere along the line with the sawmill and accidentally made these right at 7.5. I was hoping to get some extra there for shrinkage. I'm not really sure what happened there, but I'm still going to keep them and sticker them and see if I can use them. But here we go. We've got a few little knots here. I don't think anything that'll cause any structural issues, maybe with the exception of this one. I may try to cut as much off of that end as I can. We'll just see what happens there. But anyway, here are our boards, 4 of them. I need quite a few more, but we're not going to worry about that today. I'm just about out of time. We got some blue stain here on the end. That's not a structural issue at all. So 4 really good boards out of that, and 1 over here that I can cut down and use for a shorter span. Tell you what, before we get this next log onto the mill, let's take this one and make some wall studs out of it. I'll probably end up using them for jack studs or something like that. This is 7.5, a little under 7.5, and inch and a 1/16. So I don't want to use this for a ceiling joist, so I could use it for a stud in the wall. This one I shouldn't have any trouble using it as one of the many jack studs that'll be supporting this monster beam in the house. This is a really good straight tree that I'm working on, and I love working with really good straight logs because, I mean, for obvious reasons. The lumber's prettier, they're easier to saw. There's just lots of good reasons there. This is the second section of that tree that we just cut down. This, well, I say just cut down, it's been a few days at this point. This one is about 11.5 or so, and this is the small end. I'm gonna predict 4 pieces, 4 good 2x8s out of this, or 7.5 or 1.5 by 7.5. I'm trying to do store-bought dimensions on this. But anyway, let's get into this one and see what we can get. I want to show y'all something that I've got to fix before I go any farther. This log is really well laid out on the mill, except right here. I've got a little stub sticking out right here, and that's making this end of the log higher than that end, and I'm going to get an uneven cut. So I've got to move the log down that way in order to fix this problem. I didn't really want to do that, but it won't move up and down the mill unless the clamp's off. Oh, it won't move that way either. Let's give this a shot. Very few problems that you can't solve with leverage. After those cuts, we're left with a cant that is 7.5 by 8 1/4. So we're gonna go down and start getting our boards out of this now, 1.5 inches or so each. So let's do that. It's a nice looking cant. I think there'll be some nice looking boards in here. That log gave me 5 boards. I was pretty close on that one. I guessed 4 and got 5, and I think these are going to work just fine up in the ceiling. A lot of blue stain on these. That's just because the tree's been dead for a little bit. Not going to affect anything. Looking at 7.5 there. And what do we have here? 1 5/8 or so. So yeah, not bad. And these are 16 feet long. Let's go stack these. Thank you.
Can I have some tiny boards?
No, I need these tiny boards. These are called stickers.
Why do you need those tiny stickers?
You see what I'm doing with them? I'm putting them between the boards so they'll dry out better. I just walked into the house to count the joists to see how many I actually need, and technically I only need 9 because there's 9 ceiling joists up there. But the trouble is they're on 24-inch centers, and I've been told by my contractor friend that if I put them on 16-inch centers, that I'll end up with a much, much stronger and sag-resistant floor up there. So, seeing as how I've already got the ceiling in the house torn all to pieces, I should probably find a source of more 16-foot logs and do that while I can, because I don't plan to tear this ceiling apart again in my lifetime. So I'll need a few more of these 16s, but for now, let's cut one more of the logs out of that tree. I've got 2 more 8-footers. I think they're 10 actually. Let's cut one of those and I'm out of time for the day. This log is going to be the last log for the day, and of course this is the smallest so far because we're working our way up the tree. So we're looking at 10, and I believe it's 10 feet long. So I guess I'll make another guess. If I can get a 7.5 inch wide cant out of it, that's going to be pretty tight. Maybe I can get 4. Maybe I can get 4 boards out of this. I don't know. We'll just see. Wrong again. I got 5 out of that one. So I've got 1, 2, 3 full thickness ones, about 1.5 inches, a little bit more. And these down here, it was about at a 3 1/8 inch of this whole thickness right here, about 3 1/8. And I just split the difference. So of course, when you consider kerf and all of that stuff, they ended up being 1 3/8, 5/16. Yeah, that was 1.5 inches, something like that. So totally usable. I can use these for the other side of the living room where the span is much shorter than the very long span, the 14 feet that I need on the other side. So these are totally usable. There's some wane on this one, but I'm just not worried about that with such a short span. So yeah, we've still got 1 log out of that tree. I don't know if I'll be able to get the 2x8s that I really need out of that particular log, because of course as the tree goes up, naturally it just gets smaller and smaller, and you have a harder time getting fuller length logs or fuller length boards, width boards out of that stuff. So I may have to end up using that for 2x4s, which is fine. I need some 2x4s too. Not only do I need 2x4s for the jack studs in the walls, I also need them to help support the ceiling in the house. That's going to be a major project to make sure the ceiling is supported on either side of that beam while we take the beam down and put the brand new beam up there. So I'm going to need a lot of 2x4s for that part of it as well. But that's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate y'all watching, and I will see y'all on the next one.